My name is Susan Shillinglaw, and I'm director of the National Steinbeck Center in Salinas. And we're here with Laura Gregg and Professor William Gilly of Hopkins Marine Station. And Laura is an intern this summer from San Luis Obispo and Cal Poly SLO. And she's working in Gilly's lab. So I want to ask you, Laura, first, what is your major at Cal Poly?
At Cal Poly, I'm studying biology, so it really ties into what we're working on here, and it's something I've always been interested in, and it's fun just to be able to work in a lab and utilize some of what I know.
Do you have any special interest in the field or in your major?
Kind of broad interest, but I mean, I'm obviously interested in the marine aspect of it, and it's something I grew up around, just growing up and spending all my time at the ocean, so yeah.
Can you expand on that? How did you spend all your time at the ocean?
Well, growing up, we spent our summers up at a cabin outside of Vancouver in Jervis Inlet. So I used to hang out by the tide pools because my brothers told me there was a bear living under the cabin. So I would hide down on the rocks by the ocean because I didn't think it could catch me down there. So yeah, I just watching all the crabs and all the little creatures down there is really where it first started. And that started when I was like 5 years old, so ever since then I've been interested in it.
I love that. My interest in science was created by, escaping from the imaginary bear.
Yeah, it's been fear-driven, so
that's good. Yeah, my brothers used to say that they were marauding Indians outside when we took car trips, so I know what it's like to have brothers who terrify you. So what brought you to the lab this summer, certainly to Pacific Grove and to Gilly's lab?
Yeah, well, I've known both you and Gilly for a few years now, and through my dad, who's involved in the Western Flyer Project. So that's how I met you two, and then I wasn't doing much this summer, so I ended up at Hopkins, so it's been great.
Oh, good. And when you first imagined working in the lab, what did you want to do? Did you have any idea about what it would be like to work in the lab as an intern?
Well, I wasn't quite sure. I thought it'd be more grunt work, just cleaning up things and getting coffee, but it's ended up more. I've been able to do some actual lab work, so it's been really great. Yeah, working with the squid and doing all that dissections and the patch clamp work we've been doing recently. It's been really great.
So what have you found most interesting about the lab work? I know you're working with another intern, so you can kind of work as a team. You and Asana can do things together. Do you find that that's a good model to kind of, spark one another? Or?
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed it. I was there for just a couple of weeks before she was there, and I really liked having her there.
Okay.
Duo, getting all our work done. So.
Okay. What have you found to be the greatest challenge?
The greatest challenge was, I think, at first just getting comfortable and being in a lab, and it's a new setting and getting used to all the methodology and just learning how lab works.
Gilly, what did you really want? Did you have a kind of an introductory sort of approach to lab work that you wanted to sort of use as an initiation tool to get these two young women to learn about science?
I didn't really have a fixed agenda other than I knew I wanted them to work on squid chromatophores, the color changing organs in the skin with me. And since I was going to be here all summer, there was a couple things I wanted to try that were sort of new directions that we were developing. So they involved experiments with living skin, trying to manipulate it to make it change its properties, and fixing the skin and looking at it in microscope with different fluorescent labels, taking apart the skin and studying it with electrophysiology. So all these things were very new, I'm sure, and pretty advanced techniques, technical-wise. So we kind of started out just having chalk talk discussions about how the methods worked, and then we would talk about how they applied to the squid and these particular things, and then we'd set off kind of in various directions at different times. So they were very, Laura and Asana were both very accommodating. So basically, whenever I came in one day, I said, let's do this today. Oh, okay. So we'd start off on a whole new tangent. But that, I think, in retrospect, was good because it really exposed them to a lot of different things, and that otherwise you may not experience, especially if you're interested in ecology or field work. You would never probably run into these methods, but these methods are useful for relating physiology and behavior of animals to their ecology. So I hope that's coming across during the summer.
Is that coming across, Laura? Have you done any of these things in classes, or?
Yeah, and it's cool. It's just kind of linking everything together that I've learned in different classes, all to perform these certain experiments. And yeah, he's given us a couple talks. It's like having a private lecture, just 3-hour talks on physiology. So just knocking out a year of coursework in a couple hours. It's pretty good. So
had you taken a course in physiology at all?
Yeah, I've taken physiology before, but just applying it in this way is something totally new.
Good. And have you done field work, like catching the squid? Is that something new, or have you done any?
Yeah, well,
courses?
I've always been out on boats and pulling different things out of the water. So, but this is new, doing in this setting, and just being here at this environment is really.
Well, your father is working on, restoring the Western Flyer. Does this experience help you appreciate that project more, or?
Yeah, it definitely does, and I see like the passion behind it and combining and like bringing science to the public, because we went out and we worked with Squids for Kids organization, and just seeing these kids have never seen a big squid before, and just seeing them play with them. They just really poke it, but it kind of starts that it just kind of invigorates them and gets them into science.
I like that. What you said, they just poke it. But unless you poke something, you don't know what to do next.
Exactly. It just sparks that curiosity.
Exactly. Where did you do the Squid for Kids program?
At Mbari. Mbari had an open house, so we just set up a little table there. And, yeah, a lot of people are there and a lot of different kids. So.
Mm-hmm. And how does that tie into the Western Flyer project?
Well, I think these kids who normally don't have the opportunity to go out and do actual real field work and see these organisms, and it's really the first opportunity, and it may be their only opportunity in a while. So just really that first experience can set the tone for the rest of their lives.
And that's the goal of the Western Flyer Education Project, to expose kids to science and being in Monterey Bay and working with advanced equipment. And so do you sort of embrace your father's vision more enthusiastically?
I do. I think it's rubbed off of me a bit. And this whole citizen scientist approach where you're doing real science, it's like, because kids can tell if it's something totally bogus. So I think, yeah, it really just amps it up if they can tell that they're doing something real and meaningful.
Mm-hmm. True. Can you talk a little bit more about citizen science and how the boat might be involved in citizen science eventually?
Yeah, well, hopefully these kids who normally don't have the opportunities of all different age ranges through college can go and really participate in these experiments and do something they're interested in, and it will different collaborations and contribute a body of work to something.
Yeah, no, to a larger, scientific inquiry. Do you have any, can you expand on that in terms of citizen science and the Western Flyer?
Well, for the outreach angles, I mean, there's many, as Laura pointed out, there's many kids who don't have the opportunity to see the ocean. In Monterey County, there's many, many kids who have never gone to the ocean. And that's true over many places in California and elsewhere, Mexico and Washington, Oregon, that the Western Flyer will be serving. So I think the goal of getting teachers and kids from these communities that normally don't get a lot of opportunities to interact with the ocean will be a really challenging and really rewarding thing to do. As far as citizen science, yeah, I think if you can have a regular program, one thing that's really hard to do scientifically is monitor. So nobody wants to fund monitoring because it's kind of boring. You just measure the same thing over and over again. But with climate change and other things that are going on, changing fisheries, changing populations of animals, it's really important to monitor the same thing over and over. And so hopefully the Western Flyer will be doing a lot of that, of looking at what animals are living in rocks under the sea, on the seashore, making physical measurements of temperature and oxygen, so forth, at different depths. So, and people, teachers and students can participate in that. So they can actually participate in collecting real data and even helping to analyze the data and feel like they're part of it. So I think that'll be good.
That's good, monitoring. Do you see yourself being involved in that in the future, or do you
it's definitely something I want to. I really am into the project, and I've been up and I've seen the boat a few times with my dad. So hopefully after I graduate, it was something I continue my involvement in. And it's something I'm very passionate at, getting kids involved in different aspects. And no matter your education level, you can contribute something, and these are skills you could learn. It's like just training, and no matter what, it's like you could contribute something to the scientific world.
Good. Do you think your summer internship has sort of deepened that sense of your own contributions to science?
Yeah, for sure. And being down here in Monterey, it totally is a little hub of just science and art, like the conglomeration and the dichotomy of the two, which is really what the Western Flyer embodies. It's really been great to be around and being in that environment. And I love being in an academic setting, and that just furthers my appreciation for it.
So this summer, there is a Chinese scientist who is visiting the lab. Have you had much does that sort of deepen your appreciation of science as an international endeavor and not just local?
Oh, for sure. Just seeing him come over here and just the meticulous measurements he's taken over the years, and just the amount of time it takes, but seeing how it can relate to the ocean as a whole, just taking these measurements from squid and relate to the health of the ocean. It's something that is really important to understand and for the entire international community to know about.
Right, and to share data.
Yeah, the collaboration between countries regarding scientific data, I think is really important.
I agree with Laura that the data they have from they basically they're Chinese fisheries scientists, and they have years and years of data on how big squid are from Peru, from Chile, from Ecuador, from Costa Rica, and they want to work off Mexico now. So, but a lot of really good meticulous data on these squid, how old they are, how big they are, how mature they are, and how they've changed over time. So we're looking at that and analyzing it. But and that's how I got to know this guy, because I saw they had this really high quality data published, and I contacted him, and so he shared some data, and he co-authored a paper we wrote, and then got to know him a little bit. But we had a discussion yesterday, and he said that one thing his dean, his boss in China, wanted him to talk about was how to get their papers into sort of more broad public journals, like a broader interest, because the papers tend to be very meticulous and like the squid are this big, this big, this big, but they don't really relate it to the bigger picture of the climate or anything to make more of a story out of it. So I think it's important. So that's what I told them, that I can help you. We can make the paper more of a story about the squid and how they're changing, rather than just saying the squid are changing. So I think maybe that will encourage them to think about this in a different way too. Because I think
the link, the international, I like that about a story, a narrative. Yeah, that's interesting. And do you feel like you've been a part of that, Laura, as an intern this summer? Or?
Yeah, it's cool. I think, writing for scientists, it can be a bit dull and boring. So I see the point that you're making, kind of bringing it to the public and making it enjoyable and telling a story and how it relates to you and your life and how you can help make a difference.
Don't you think that the whole idea of a story and a narrative is one of the reasons that the Western Flyer is such a compelling narrative and boat, and so many people want to get involved because there is such a great story behind it?
Yeah, there is this kind of cool romantic story about it and its life and its history, and kind of anthropomorphizing this boat has been really cool to see, and that there is such a community around it internationally. I think going up to visit it, and there's people from Germany visiting it, which is just like to put their hands on it, which is so cool to see. So yeah, and people like scrape a barnacle off and keep it forever. So, yeah. And cool.
And I mean, it has a narrative, but it also can contribute to, sort of a broader understanding of science. So
Yeah.
it can be a story and a sort of platform for expanding our awareness of science.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Rocky, because you said you're working
Oh,
with
Rocco. All right.
Rocco.
We have an octopus.
Oh,
We got from the abalone farm a little rubescent, so he's been hanging out in the lab. So we've just been kind of
In a tank.
in a tank. Yeah, he's not crawling around. So yeah, that's our pet octopus.
and that's
currently.
your pet. Are you doing any studies of Rocco?
Yeah, we are trying to come up with a couple behavioral experiments, but it's hard with only one octopus. We may need a larger experimental body.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So is that something you've done before? Have you worked with live animals before in your research at school?
Not in research, no. It's been kind of fun having all these different animals in the lab, all these marine organisms. So then you can work with them directly and just on your own time, really. Anytime we want, we've both been given that kind of freedom to just, if we come up with an experiment or if we want to observe certain behaviors, we're free to do that. It's not very rigid, so it allows us to come up with our own, what we're interested in, and make our own observations.
And have you made any interesting observations about Rocco?
No, just some pretty typical octopus behavior, but yeah, just feeding him different smaller animals. And
What is Rocco like?
he likes his little minnows are his favorite.
Little.
Have you fed him crabs?
Yeah, we fed him a couple
And he likes
crabs.
fish better than crabs?
Who knows?
That's another. Well, in closing, I think I'd like to just say, what do you think is the most valuable part of your summer experience?
I think just being here and being around these people, and I mean, we're in the lab with these PhD students who are just so cool and they're so knowledgeable at one specific thing. So it's cool to be around them and just hear them talk about their research, and it kind of inspires, I think, both of us to move forward with our education and go forward with research.
Okay, to continue. And
Maybe continue and expand it a bit.
Oh, good. Is that your goal as well, to create researchers?
How could you do anything better?
That's
No.
true. The joys of doing research and answering questions.
Yeah.
So good. Well, I want to thank you both for coming today and being a part of this program. So thank you, audience, for tuning in. Thanks again. So it was very